The universe is vast, it's ancient, and it's deeply quiet. But every now and then, that silence is broken by something that completely challenges our fundamental understanding of physics, right? In July of 2025, astronomical observatories picked up a massive celestial body moving near Earth. They called it 3I Atlas. But as we've been tracking its journey through our solar system, this multi-billion-ton object started behaving in ways that have absolutely captivated the world. It really makes you wonder, are we looking at a simple comet, or could this actually be a probe from a distant civilization? Today, in this explainer, we're going to explore a mystery that's literally unfolding right above our heads.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the behavior of 3I Atlas is, well, it's nothing short of extraordinary. The real anomaly here isn't just that it's moving fast, it's how it's moving and what it looks like while it's doing it. The observational data shows us that 3I Atlas actually shifts through this radiant spectrum of glowing colors. We're talking blue, then yellow, to red and green. Honestly, it almost looks like it's emitting deliberate signals. But even more fascinating, its trajectory. The object is actively increasing its speed, and its movements look almost conscious, like it's deliberately steering to avoid collisions with other celestial bodies in its path.
Section 1. NASA's explanation. The sublimation theory. Naturally, when a multi-billion-ton rock starts changing speeds and glowing in vibrant colors, we look to the leading space agencies for answers. And NASA has actually put forward an official scientific theory to explain this seemingly conscious movement.
According to NASA's scientists, the answer lies in a totally natural process called sublimation. Basically, their theory proposes that as 3I Atlas passes in front of the Sun, the intense solar heat melts ice trapped on or under its surface. This rapid melting creates these localized emissions of vapor and gas. So NASA argues that these outgassing vapor jets act just like natural thrusters, propelling this massive object forward and causing those sudden spikes in speed. Plus, they state that these specific gas emissions are what's responsible for the strange, shifting, colorful glows we're seeing.
Section 2. The physics of doubt. Now, what's really interesting about this data is the mathematical antithesis coming from independent, highly respected astrophysicists. Because, when you actually sit down and run the numbers on NASA's sublimation theory, a really stark physical problem starts to emerge.
Just look at this number, 10 to 20%. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb performed a pretty straightforward calculation, looking at the sheer raw force you'd need to push a rock of this monumental size off its natural gravitational path. He calculated that for a natural comet to achieve this reported level of acceleration purely through sublimation, it would have to lose an absolute minimum of 10% of its mass. And realistically, it would likely need to lose up to 20%. To put that into perspective, evaporating 1/5 of a multi-billion-ton rock is a violently transformative event. It's massive.
And that brings us to a crucial point. If 3I Atlas were actually shedding up to 20% of its mass, the visual evidence would be absolutely unmistakable. As Avi Loeb points out, quote, if it's a natural comet, there should be a very massive cloud of gas around it. They just show a blob of light, end quote. And he really hit the nail on the head there. Because when we look at the newest images, that giant gas cloud, it simply isn't there. We just see a tight blob of light around it, which is pretty much exactly how it looked when it was way further away from the sun's heat. So the physical observations of 3I Atlas are in direct conflict with what we'd expect to see from a sublimating comet.
This perfectly illustrates the divide between a standard comet and what we're actually witnessing right now. Let's just walk through this contrast for a second. A standard comet going through this level of outgassing would generate a massive gas cloud. Its overall mass would noticeably drop, and as huge chunks melted away, its physical shape would shift completely. But 3I Atlas? It shows no massive gas cloud. Its mass remains totally unchanged in the data. It has a very uniform reflectivity, unlike a jagged, icy comet, and its elongated shape is completely fixed. Bottom line, it just doesn't behave like a comet.
Section 3. Transparency and the search for answers. So, with such a massive contrast between NASA's official statements and the mathematical reality observed by independent astronomers, well, it's no surprise that this has evolved way beyond just the scientific debate. It's turning into a real point of public and political friction.
There's definitely a growing frustration out there over data transparency. Members of Congress have officially requested that NASA provide clear, definitive imagery of 3I Atlas. Now, NASA possesses some of the most advanced satellite imagery capabilities in the entire solar system. We're talking the James Webb Space Telescope and Voyager probes. Yet critics are arguing the agency is stalling. Because instead of addressing the 3I Atlas anomaly directly, NASA Acting Director Sean Duffy recently dedicated time to responding to celebrity Kim Kardashian's claims that the moon landing was faked. Observers and critics are accusing NASA of falling into a familiar pattern of deflection, recycling old news tropes like discovering distant habitable planets that quickly fade from the headlines, seemingly to distract a public that's already overwhelmed by global anxieties.
But while the American agency is facing all these questions about transparency, independent international bodies have stepped in to provide some much-needed clarity. Japanese observatories actually managed to capture their own independent imagery of 3I Atlas, and their data reveals the object in startling detail. 3I Atlas is massive, measuring about 1/4 of a mile long. But the real kicker here? The Japanese imagery confirms it is definitely not a jagged, typical cometary core. It's distinctly elongated. It looks like a giant, smooth cigar.
Section 4. Oumuamua and Shape Anomalies. Let's move forward and see how this builds, because for astronomers who've been paying attention over the last decade, the phrase cigar-shaped celestial body rings a very loud, very specific bell. 3I Atlas is not an isolated event in our modern history.
Back in 2017, the scientific community was completely stunned by the arrival of Oumuamua, an interstellar object that visited our solar system. And the similarities here, they're impossible to ignore. Both objects share that distinct elongated cigar shape. Both exhibit very bizarre uniform light polarization. And crucially, both of them demonstrated non-gravitational acceleration, meaning they actively sped up in ways that gravity alone just could not explain. But the key difference is the sheer magnitude. While Oumuamua sped up just a tiny little bit as it exited our solar system, the acceleration we're tracking right now with 3I Atlas is vastly higher. It requires a mind-boggling amount of force.
Section 5. Historical cigar-shaped sightings. While 2017 and 2025 mark major milestones in modern astronomical tracking, the historical record suggests these anomalies are not just recent visitors. If we take a step back and look through archival documents, these giant, pillar-like cigar-shaped anomalies have actually been recorded traversing Earth's atmosphere for centuries.
Long before we had deep space satellites, humanity was looking up and documenting these exact same shapes. Going way back to 1897, old newspapers like the Mountain Mail reported detailed accounts of mysterious airships, long, cylindrical objects just dominating the sky. This historical spread is incredibly fascinating because the descriptions of these anomalous cigar-shaped objects totally transcend our modern technology. Think about it. The shape recorded in 1897 is identical to the shape that stunned astronomers in 2017 with Oumuamua, and it is the exact same shape we're tracking right now, today, in 2025 with 3I Atlas.
And the historical eyewitness accounts of these objects are incredibly consistent. Observers regularly describe them as being roughly the size of a football field. They often didn't reflect sunlight like a normal physical object, but instead they appeared as transparent clouds, or they radiated their own independent energy. But most startlingly, these historical accounts, as well as some older, more obscure NASA recordings, document these objects coming to complete dead stops, making perfectly sharp, right-angle turns in the vacuum of space, or just hovering completely stationary, a mere 300 feet in the air. They behave with a precise, deliberate control that standard physics and gravity simply cannot explain.
As 3I Atlas continues its rapid, calculated acceleration, we're really looking at a closing window of opportunity. Every single day of delay in releasing clear data is a race against time, because very soon 3I Atlas will cross the threshold of our solar system, vanishing into the unfathomable depths of interstellar space forever. And it's going to take whatever secrets it carries right along with it. Are we missing our chance to understand a completely new paradigm of physics? Or perhaps something even more profound? The data is up there, just racing away into the dark.